It's like kind of having a band that's been together for a long time, and all of a sudden your guitar player retires and you got to plug somebody in, and it's kind of like the new kid in class. You're trying to figure out how to act with all the other guys because everybody's so used to each other.
Tonight's Chuck Smith Show, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service, is also brought to you by our loyal sponsors. Charlie's Bar and Restaurant, located at 800 Shore Road in Summers Point. Meet your friends at Charlie's at the shore since '44. Chico and Son Sub Shop, located at 1620 Tilton Road, Northfield. Choose the #1 sub shop in South Jersey. And the Docks Place, located at 646 Bay Avenue in Summers Point. Book your dinner reservations now at 609-926-0404. Thank you for your support of Mainland Regional Football.
But when you have a solid program, a lot of that can take over what an individual might do. Before he releases the ball, he takes a shot right as he releases it here. And for him to stand in there in the face of that, and that's just the confidence that he has. And like I found myself just trying to catch my breath for a bit because of the excitement and just the pressure of that moment. This is a game that the kids, you live for.
This is the Chuck Smith Show on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Now, here's Coach Smith and your host, Nick Kosko.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and with me, as he will be every week during the 2025 high school football season, Mainland head coach Chuck Smith. Coach, hope you had a great summer, and I know it's still summer, but football is, I can't believe this already, 2 weeks away from getting kicked off for the most part, and again, Mainland looking to run it back here in 2025. I'm sure you guys had quite the off season, and gearing up for a very senior heavy type team this year. A couple newcomers, as we'll talk about as well. But I think it's time to talk. It's almost football season, so I think we need to get right down to it now.
Yeah, it's good to see it, Nick. Yeah, it's funny. You look forward to summer happening by the end of the school year. You get to June, and you have maybe 2 weeks off, and next thing you know, you're in summer sessions, and you get through summer sessions, and they're kind of like a little bit more laid back, even though you're in the weight room every day. And then August 11th hit, and you're 6 days a week again. It's right back into it again. Makes the year go fast.
For sure. So as far as the offseason is concerned, you guys go 10-4 last season, made it back to the state championship game, this time in Group 3, fell a little short to Old Tapan. Again, great game between two very talented teams. You guys were, just essentially, a couple plays away from possibly repeating, but there are a lot of expectations for you guys once again in 2025, still in Group 3. But again, a lot of players from that team last year and even the team the year before that won the Group 4 state title are back this season. So what was the mentality in the weight room as far as the offseason was concerned? What was the winter like? Of course, we know how Mainland rolls, a lot of multi-sport athletes, but when you play that deep into the season, how'd you guys transition from the end of the year and then throughout the winter and the spring?
Yeah, it's funny. Kids have a shorter-term memory than the coaches do. We're fortunate to have a great season again last year, have another shot at a state title. As you said, fell a little short to a well-coached Old Pan team. And I got to know their head coach in the off-season during the summer. We were both in the All-Star game together. Great guy and just a well-coached team. And even though you hate losing, when you lose to a program like that, it makes you feel a little bit better about it, even though it still stings. But the kids, we gave them 2 weeks off after the loss, and we were right back at 5:30 a.m. workouts again, and they had a great mentality, because, I think sometimes when you lose a game like that, and it was well within grasp to win, it wasn't out of sight to win, I think it fuels you in the off season. And having such a good senior class back this year, a group of kids, 18 seniors in this class, the majority of them have played all 4 years now. They came in as highly talented freshmen that were being recruited by everybody, and thank God they all came to Mainland. And they had success and played meaningful minutes. Some of them started as true freshmen, in the first sectional championship team, and then they were fortunate to win a state championship the year after that, another sectional championship and a run at the state championship last year. Now it's funny, all of a sudden now they're seniors, and some people are saying, man, it seems like these kids have been there forever. And that's because they've been playing forever. They've played on the field. Some of them were key backups, and some of the kids have graduated over the last couple of years. But I think, this is their turn now. Before they were, it was always the seniors' turn, so they've been behind these other guys for the last 3 years. And now it's their time to carry on the tradition that we have going on here at Mainland. And they've taken the torch and they're running with it. It's been a great off season, not just in the weight room, but on the football field. It's been easy for us as coaches for the most part because, these kids are well versed. It's not like you're going out there and reteaching things all the time. You got, like I said, first summer session, I said, I guarantee I can walk out there and call play and they're going to run it pretty much to perfection, even though we haven't done it since December. And it's like that. And that's what you have when you have a veteran team. And, obviously the expectations are very high this year, but we're focused on what's ahead of us right now.
Yeah, you mentioned the class of 2026, a very special group for you guys. You mentioned the college commitments. I believe I have all these right as of 2 weeks ago. Andrew Gilman and Nate Cashy are both going to be teammates in college. They're both going to UPenn. Is that correct? And they're going to go the Ivy League route. So good on them. TJ McBall, Bryant University. I think there was another one that I may be missing off the top of my head, but Liam Kennedy, right?
Cortland, SUNY Cortland.
Yep. Okay. So when you look at those guys, and is it kind of cool that these guys have already made their commitments, so it's basically kind of out of the way, and they can just focus solely on, all right, I know I'm going to college now. It's all about my senior year, this football season, and pretty much nothing else.
Yeah, I think it's like any high school football program has had success or has good football players. You get that. I mean, it's a whirlwind of college coaches coming in the spring, nonstop. I mean, there was days where we had 6 college coaches coming in, and it was multiple days in a row. So I think it's a lot of fun in the beginning. And then, like I always tell the families, it's going to be pressure packed because all of a sudden, when they throw out these offers, and I don't even know what an offer is anymore today, but they throw out these offers, and eventually it's going to come down to they're going to put the pressure on you. You got to make a decision by a certain point in time. And that's where it gets really, kind of stressful for the families involved. All of a sudden they have to make a decision, so to say. And I think it's been a relief for those guys just to get that off their chest, not having to worry about that anymore. And now they can focus on the season.
Without a doubt. What is this senior class meant? I mean, we'll get into the rest of the team as a whole in a second, but what is this class meant? And you kind of alluded to it before where, this team has seen a lot of playoff success. They've seen a lot of long seasons. A lot of them were playing as freshmen, whether they were starting or they had significant roles within the offense or the defense or heck, even special teams. But they've seen 3 straight sectional titles. They've seen a state title. And they've seen another state championship game appearance. So it's arguably one of the best 4-year runs that the school has ever had, once you eventually include this year. But what has this class meant to you and your staff, and I guess just, the community as a whole?
Yeah, it's really been rewarding as a coach and a teacher to watch them mature over the past 4 years. Coming in as freshmen, obviously very talented freshmen, but they were able to. And I think the thing I admire the most about these guys is they've learned from the guys in front of them. And you can see different aspects of what the different senior classes in front of them had and how they're carrying on those little things in their own way. But it's our traditions now, and they're carrying through with that. But it's been great, to watch them as young kids coming in, playing, developing, maturing, not just physically, but mentally into great young men. I mean, I always say to people, Mainland, we really hardly ever, knock on wood, have an issue with discipline or anything outside of the classroom, in the community, any nonsense. We've been fortunate with that. We run a pretty strict discipline program, and the kids adhere to it. But it's been fun with them, and knowing all their families for these years, because you get to know them so well. Sometimes when freshmen come in, they really don't start to play. Maybe some play as a sophomore. Hopefully by junior year they're playing, and then you see their families more and you get more involved with their families. But these kids have been entrenched since freshman year, and I'm really happy for them with the success that they've had. It's we've won the most games in Mainland history over a 3-year period. We're hoping to do something that nobody's ever done at Mainland this season with winning a 4th straight sectional title. Nobody at Mainland's ever done that. And these kids are, the next win they get, they'll set a record for the most wins over a 4-year period. So they've been a record-setting team, but they're very humble too. They're not walking around like they're bigger and better than everybody in the building. They fit right in. In fact, you could probably walk by most of them in the hallway and not even realize they're on the football team, except they wear all the stuff. But a great group of kids. It's been such a pleasure to coach. And even though this is the last season of it, I'm going to, all of us as on the coaching staff, we're going to really cherish him and, admire each day that we have with them till it's all over.
Mm-hmm. Some of those seniors that are back this season, especially ones that are going to be in key roles. Of course, John Franchini at quarterback. He's going to be in his fourth year as a starter, and he'll obviously be helped out on offense with guys like Jake Blum and Liam Kennedy. Chase Hogue is also back. I can go all the way down the list. Andrew Gilman, we already alluded to him before as far as his college commitment was concerned. Nate Cashy. I don't want to forget about him other than his college commitment because I believe is he the all-time leading scorer in school history already as a kicker?
He is. He almost has every single record, and I think he's pretty close. Not that Cape Atlantic League exists anymore, but I think he's like 5 kicking points away from being the Cape Atlantic League's all-time kicker too. Tom Williams told me that.
I mean, you talk about record setting. He could do it by himself at this point as well. So I'll start on offense for you guys first, considering especially with Johnny at quarterback, for a 4-year starter. Kind of rare to see in high school these days, especially with the way the landscape has changed as the college game has trickled down to the high school game. As far as private schools or public schools, kids transferring or kids switching positions. But he's been steadfast at that quarterback position. What kind of strides has he made over the course of the offseason? I mean, you mentioned, I believe it was last year, you mentioned the jump from sophomore to junior year was probably his biggest jump in terms of development. What has he done this offseason to pretty much, I guess, fine-tune his skills ahead of his final season?
Yeah, as you said, it's very seldom do you have a 4-year starter quarterback coming in. I've all the years I've coached, I think he's only the third player that I've had that started all 4 years, starting as a true freshman. And it's kind of a scary thing when you get to high school and you think about it, when you're kind of forced to use a freshman, not that you always want to do that. You're expecting to take some learning lumps and there's going to be a lot of mistakes and getting used to the speed of the game. And somehow we were fortunate that we wound up winning the sectional title that year and going to the semifinals and close to winning that one too. And he did that as a freshman. Then, of course, took another step the following year and then really jumped off last year with his passing. I think the thing with Johnny, the thing I've seen between this last year and this year coming into it is, he's a 3-sport person, playing football, basketball, and baseball. We like our guys in the weight room. And this year he made more of a commitment to be in there in the off season, when he could. So we got to see his face a little bit more at 5:30 in the morning, and I think that will bode well as we go into this season, with him. But he has great leadership qualities. Kids on the team love him. He's always out there, even though he hasn't really played defense for us over the past 3 years, when we're doing our defensive drills, our conditioning drills, he jumps in and does that with the defense. I mean, that's kind of the qualities that he has, and it's unbelievable that, he's coming to the end of his run too. You think about it, he's been there for so long. You kind of get very comfortable when you have a guy like that you can rely on, not having to reteach everything year to year. And you can kind of, with a guy who has so much experience now, it's kind of like having another coach on the field offensively, but at the same time, you can kind of open up that playbook even more now. You can do a few more things now because he can do A, B. Now let's see if we can do C and D now, So looking forward to it.
Without a doubt. When we looked at last year's offense, of course, when you guys are, run first team, like to use many different backs, still use that old school wing T. Jake Blum really stepped up last year, especially wide receiver, I believe. I mean, talk about records again. I think he set a couple of records last year. I think it was most touchdown receptions in the season and possibly yards for a season. And I think he's closing in on some career receiving records too. And he's really only played a season plus as a starting wide receiver. So he's back this year. I know he was dealing with some injuries over the course of the winter, but he'll be helped out. Liam Kennedy, I'm sure, will have a big role in the offense. And I know he's only a junior, but Lucas DiBiaso really broke out last year as a sophomore back for you guys. So it seems like a lot of weapons, before we get to the big guys, of course, a lot of weapons are pretty much back in their roles. Do you see any of these roles for guys like that expanding, whether they're playing receiver and back or changing positions? How do you see this basically mapping out here for the offense?
Yeah, I mean, as everybody knows, we like to have a little stable of running backs back there. We're a 3-headed monster in the backfield, and that's not even counting the quarterback.
Yeah.
And we like to have a bunch of guys because a lot of guys play both ways too. So we like to have fresh guys moving around and guys that can play multiple positions in our backfield. like you saw last year with like Rocco. Rocco would be in the backfield with Johnny, and then he'd be at a wing position. So we like to get our guys moving around back there, learning multiple positions. It will be the same thing this year. We got a lot of guys in the backfield. Nate Rivera, who's a senior who started on defense last year. Lucas, as you said before, had a great sophomore year and really hit the weight room this offseason. He has transformed his body big time. Got a lot more muscle mass on him, even grew a little bit taller, put some muscle, pounds on, which we're going to need because he played defense last year, played some on offense, but we're going to need him to be a two-way player this year. Chase Hogue, who's back again, played some in the backfield last year. Linebacker also will be in the backfield. And then we have Jake Blum, who will be getting some carries in the backfield also this year, and a sophomore who's really rising up for us and has had a tremendous summer, AJ Gockler from Northfield. He's a kid who came in, a great athlete from Northfield, multi-sport athlete also, which I love having, and really grew a lot from his freshman to sophomore year. Just has that very high football IQ, and he's going to get a lot of playing time in the backfield also. And then, of course, out, in our receiving core, you have Jake, who you said, he broke a ton of records last year, and he's on the verge of breaking even more career records this year. He made All South Jersey as a wide receiver last year and made All State as a defensive back. I mean, he's just a great athlete. I remember when he came to Mainland, and we had Cohen Cook on the team at the time, and I was like, man, not that anybody. I mean, Cohen Cook in my book is way up here as an athlete, but I said Jake Blum is like a Cohen Cook 2.0. He's that athletic and can play a multitude of positions across the field. And then we have Liam Kennedy too.
Yep.
Who, he'll play at running back also, where he's played in the past, and he's great at being a receiver also. And we have Luke Kerrigan, who's a senior, who's been behind all these guys all these years, but now he has a chance to get on the field. And he's really worked hard. So we have a lot of guys to play our skill position. Positions there, and we're going to need that, of course.
Yeah, without a doubt. Some of the big guys, Colt Russo listed at offensive line and linebacker this year. Of course, we mentioned TJ McBall earlier when we were talking about the college commitments. He was a force, pretty much a wrecking ball on that defensive line. So, I mean, those two guys are staples in the trenches or within the front seven on the defense if you're going to lump them all together. Who are some, other than those two guys, who are some of the other standouts as far as you guys putting together your offensive and defensive lines this year? Because, I mean, as you said in the past, you had a lot of continuity on both sides of the ball. Maybe not some of the biggest guys, but some of the more athletically and technically sound guys. So how are you guys operating on those two sides of the ball in the trenches this season?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, everybody knows we've never been the biggest offensive line or defensive line, but we're pretty quick. And we've lived on that the past few years. This year might be the biggest offensive line since I've been back at Mainland in the last 10 years, size-wise. TJ's going to be playing offense also this year. He'll be slated at tackle for us. We have Mike Pergiovanni, who started guard last year, moving over to center for us this year. Like you said, Colt Russo, who played tight end for us last year, started on defense. He's going to play one of our tackle positions along with Anthony Santos, who's a junior this year. And then we have another junior, Evan Coons, who it's his time to step up, playing on the offensive line, and a sophomore, Leo Morales, playing on the offensive line also. And, of course, at tight end, we got Andrew Gilman. And Andrew was a split end his first 2 years with us. And then last year, when Hunter Watson graduated, we needed to fill that void. And we like to have an athletic tight end in there. And Andrew did a good job and really got better as the season went, especially the second half of the season at tight end. Blocking end, he's a great threat in the passing game because he can catch it and he can run. And he's a big target. And when you run the wing T, you got to have a great tight end target, obviously. So we have a pretty big offensive line for this year. So hopefully it bodes well for us.
No doubt. So we'll go over to the staff. There was a new addition to the staff in Lance Bailey, who was, of course, at Lower Cape May for a while as the head coach. So he's now on your staff this year, defensive coordinator, after he stepped down from his post. What's it been like to have him around your staff? I know we were talking before the show, and it's like, he's been coaching such a long time, but you guys have had a lot of continuity as a staff. So it's like he's the new kid in school, as you kind of put it, despite the fact that he has a lot of, football knowledge and a lot of experience as a coach.
Yeah, Lance has been around, had a couple stints down there in Lower Cape May, had a lot of success down there at Lower Cape May. I've gotten to know him. We've scrimmaged against each other over the past few years. And I've also got to know him because he's a basketball official and I do site supervision at Mainland the winter season. And, Tim Watson stepped back this year. He's still involved with our program, helping us with our mindset stuff that we do in the classroom and all. And stepping back to help, with his family and coaching his 8th grade son this year. And we had an opening, which doesn't always happen,
Yeah.
And just so happened that I was talking with Lance, and he was looking after he stepped down there at Lower K May of still wanting to coach, and asked about joining our staff. We had a position there, and talked about being defensive coordinator, and he accepted the challenge. And he's been a welcome addition to us. The kids really like him. It's like I was saying before the show, it's like kind of having a band that's been together for a long time, and all of a sudden your guitar player retires and you got to plug somebody in, and it's kind of like the new kid in class. You're trying to figure out how to act with all the other guys because everybody's so used to each other, and who can break stones on somebody else, and all that. So he's finding his way. He's fitting in well with us.
Love to hear that. So we'll pivot over to the schedule. And again, as we alluded to before, loaded team for you guys coming back, a lot of experience, a lot of seniors, of course, some young guys stepping up, but the schedule, and I'm pretty sure we talked about this pretty much every week last year, because you pretty much had the same schedules last year, just flipped for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Another difficult schedule for you guys, but you will open up in Delaware in a little showcase event, ironically against Atlantic City, just right down the street. So that's in a couple of weeks, I believe 16 days from when we are taping this. So that's where you guys open up, but the similar foes here in 2025 with Hamilton, Millville, Cherokee, St. Augustine Prep. Of course, the rivalries with Ocean City and EHT, and you guys have Winslow and Delsey to end the season once again. So looking at the schedule as a whole, I know you're not looking ahead and you're just focusing on Atlantic City right now, in 2 weeks' time. But what can you say about this cast of characters that you're going to go up against once again here in 2025?
Yeah, it's getting ready for another heavyweight fight, Like we said last year, it's a lot about surviving the schedule, getting through it. It's a very physical schedule. Some great teams, top teams ranked high in the state in the preseason. As we get going, we start off with Atlantic City, who made it to the sectional finals last year.
Mm-hmm.
Had a tremendous year. Coach Wright has done a great job with that team over there. One of my favorite guys I like to coach against in the coaching community. Just a good person. And the way that game came around was I was just trying to do something different with our team this year. We played in the Battle Beach for 3 years. And one of my buddies from college is the director of the Pigskin Classic down at Salesianum High School in Wilmington, Delaware, where this takes place. And we were talking about possibly doing it last year, and just, we stayed with the Battle of the Beach. And then this year I talked to our athletic director and said, hey, it'd be really cool if we could go do this. So long story short, we were supposed to play a couple of out-of-state teams, and those deals fell through. So it was kind of getting to the nitty gritty. And I said to my buddy, I said, hey, would you have any offense if I called up Atlantic City, even though both of us are across the bridge from each other here, to go to Delaware? And everybody's like, why are we going to Delaware to play Atlantic City? And it's just a neat venue. And I talked to Coach Wright, and he jumped on it right away too. And I know they're making a great experience for the kids at Atlantic City, where they're going to spend the night, make an overnight trip and do all that. So it'll be a great experience for them, and a great experience for us to play somewhere else in like a college stadium atmosphere also. A few of the teams that we're playing against this year have brand new coaches. So you don't know what to expect when a new guy comes in and is fueling a program that might have been down for a little bit. Of course, you have the Millvilles in there, the Prep. As you said, Winslow, all teams are going to be ranked very high this year and high expectations in their programs. And, even Delsey had a down year, but I think they made it to a sectional final last year in a down year.
Yeah.
And they're just Delsey. They're one of those teams you just expect them to always be good. And EHT, is a rival also. And those rival games, even though one team might be up and one team might be down, it doesn't matter. It evens out right away when you play those games. So, we just got to be ready each week just for who we're facing, and not worry about who's next or who's down the road, or, worrying about a state championship that's, always in December. We just got to worry about, and all we're focused about, and all we've been focused about as a coaching staff and a football program since the beginning of summer, is Atlantic City.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Delsey, considering that was a nerve-wracking game for all those involved at the end of last season, right before the playoffs. And as you mentioned, down year for them. They still make a run in the playoffs and nearly upset the entire apple cart. But yeah, Atlantic City in Wilmington, Delaware, that is scheduled for August 29th. So a little bit more than 2 weeks away from the season opener, which I can't believe we're here already. So, Coach, I appreciate your time. I'll leave you here with this one. I've asked every coach, and I'll do it to you as well. I know we talk every week, but just the slogan this year, the messaging on that you're going to put on the back of the Mainland T-shirt this year. Is it anything different this year? The same as it always been? What is it? What's the rallying message here for your players and your entire staff and team going into 2025?
Well, with the success we've had over the last several years, and really, it's really been, I think, 5 of the last 7 years we've been a pretty successful football program outside the COVID years there. The standard set, the kids know what our standard is. They know the goals and expectations, and they're very high. They're very lofty. We know our goal is to get back to Rutgers, to have a shot at another state championship. But all we're focused about is today.
Yeah.
What we have to do today to get better. That's all we're worried about, really. Did we talk about a state championship? Yeah, we did. We know that's on our list of check marks to get to, but that's way down the list. Because if we don't take care of everything in front of it, we're not going to be there. And all we got to worry about right now is just getting better each day. I told the kids that yesterday when we had a team meeting. We got to focus on just getting better as a player. What can we do at our position, as an overall player, as a teammate, just to get better today. And then tomorrow we'll focus on the next step and so forth. And in the back of our head, we're game planning for Atlantic City at the same time. As we get ready for our preseason games, which are next week. And as you said, it's weird. I've been around this game for a long time now, and we didn't start. I think when I first started coaching, we weren't even starting practice yet. We didn't start till the end of August, and we didn't have a game till the end of September.
Right.
And I think you had like one scrimmage maybe besides your at Mainland. We had a green-white scrimmage. Now today everything's so pushed forward and compacted. You start yesterday, everybody starts. Monday, everybody has a scrimmage. A couple days later, you get your game scrimmage, and then all of a sudden you're playing a game. We'll have 2 games in as we're in our first couple of days of school. So we'll be in our second day of school, and we'll be playing our second game of football. So it's just really crazy how fast it is nowadays.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. A little over 10 years ago when I was still in high school and we were playing, I feel like by the time we hit mid-August, it's like, we've been practicing for a month and a half already. Let's just get to school. So, it is mind-boggling. So, once again, August 29th is the season opener for you guys against Atlantic City. Mainland, AC, old school rivalry. Of course, this one in Wilmington, Delaware, a little bit of a showcase game, give the kids an experience, and then you will come back to the state of New Jersey at Hamilton, and then the home opener against Millville, which will take place on September 12th. Of course, we'll have that game right here on Cape Atlantic Live, each and every home game for Mainland in 2025. Coach, appreciate the time. Good luck in a couple of weeks. We'll circle back around after the season opener. Looking forward to chatting with you each and every week as we progress here through another football season here for Mainland.
Hey, thanks a lot, Nick, and thanks to Matt also for doing this every week. I know everybody appreciates it. All the people in the Mainland football community love it, and especially the players. So thank you.
Absolutely. We love to highlight them each and every week. Chuck Smith Show right here on Cape Atlantic Live is presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Check out the rest of the episodes on Cape Atlantic Live and our Cal One-on-One podcast on the channel, as well as our live games coming up here this high school football season in September.